What's up, everyone? For those who might not have heard the news, Vue 3 is now production ready. So, for this episode of the TLDR series, I thought it'd be fun to cover some of the things I'm excited about for Vue 3. For those of us who have used frameworks for a while, there was a common scenario when building components that we often encountered, which was the template needed to be wrapped in a single root element. As a result, many of our components ended up being wrapped in a div, which resulted in applications being polluted with random divs all over the page for no reason other than to satisfy this one restriction. Thankfully, Vue 3 introduces the concept of fragments, which allows us to now have multiple root nodes on a component. Using our last example, this means we can now eliminate the wrapping div, and this will still be perfectly valid code. The next feature I'm stoked about is the teleport component. So what is the teleport component exactly? Well, there are times when components should be responsible for handling state or logic, but it might not make sense to tightly couple it to the template where it will ultimately be rendered. Examples of this include modals and notifications. In the past, this was rather difficult to manage, and while some people found ways to get around it, it always felt kind of hacky and not the best solution. With the new teleport component, you'll be able to properly organize your code while still allowing it to render on the appropriate location in the site. For those who have been following Vue 3's development, it should be no surprise that the Composition API is on this list. In case you haven't heard, the Composition API is a new technique that allows developers to manage code in their applications by providing developers another way to share code and/or state within their application. It is an enhancement to the current Options API and should not be considered a replacement. Now, with this newfound freedom, it's important to remember that the Composition API will not magically make your code better. After all, with all this freedom to compose features the way you want, this now means that it's up to you to practice good software architectures when building your applications. One of the things I love about Vue is that it's easy to define props and document them so that other developers can easily understand how to use it. However, this was always a little bit lacking when it came to figuring out how events were being emitted in a component, since you kind of had to jump around the component's codebase to figure out what was going on. Thankfully, in Vue 3, this will no longer be the case, because now emitted events can be defined inside the component definition to provide better documentation for your developers. One of the challenges of working in modern JavaScript frameworks is that sometimes you need to control the styles using JavaScript, but you still want to write clean code using CSS. And while one of the things we love most about Vue is managing our code through single file components, this created a challenge when we wanted to manage the state of the styles through JavaScript, such as what color a user prefers, but there was no easy way to transfer that information into our style block so we could use it within CSS. Though it is still in an experimental phase at the time of this recording, a new feature being explored is the ability to inject state from JavaScript directly into our style blocks through CSS variables, which is exciting because this means we can now use what's great about CSS while still leveraging the dynamic aspects of JavaScript. If you want to learn more about the new features and changes coming to Vue 3, be sure to check out the official migration guide, which I'll link in the description below. Thanks for watching.